Sorry, I muted myself. Let's see if that fixed stuff. That sounds all right. Hey, hey, Brian, you were first. I think this is I haven't seen you first in the comments in a while. Usually it's either Evan or Nigel, then followed by Nigel, of course. Kudos to you for finding the link in 30 minutes that I posted it up. So let's see. I'm not sure if George is, you know what? Let me text George. I emailed George the links. I'm not sure if he's gonna be in or not. It's usually not like him. Let me just give him a quick text message. All right. You guys have a good week? I had an okay week. What did I do today? Well, no, this week is all about me binging on Attack on Titan. Originally, I had a Mike style, where it's about debate, Joker style, Friday Night Tech Talk sort of episode. Unfortunately, that didn't quite pan out for this episode, but luckily, I got some stories in the description. And I don't see any reason to delete that. Oh, hi, Renz. Oh, it's all good. You're all right, Renz. And yeah, I'm doing well, Nigel. Sorry, it's so weird to just do this on two screens. Let me show. Oh, hi, Crisco 2010. There we go. Yes, all right. Sorry, so I'm on a two system setup. The camera is from my iPad, which is its own account. And then in order for me to share content, the news stories with you, I'm on my PC, which is listed as the cast system, which I don't know if you guys can see or not. But enough long talk. Let's share some stories. Video file. Ooh, I can share video files now. Chrome tab, boom, share. The first stories, ladies and gentlemen, by Jody Serrano. Verizon tells consumers to turn off 5G to preserve battery life, then instantly regrets it. This sounds like a great story. So, in a tweet on Sunday, hold on, let me see if I can make this bigger for y'all. Making it a little bit bigger. There you go. In an effort to be helpful, Verizon accidentally stuck its foot in its mouth on Sunday and then furiously backtracked. Now, something to note, as you guys know, Verizon has been making a huge deal about its 5G service, even though technically it's been the slowest. While they do, technically speaking, have the fastest 5G speeds thanks to ultra wideband, but that's the one that's usually in the smallest areas, concentrated in metropolitan cities. Verizon's also the reason why during the iPhone 12 Apple keynote event, Apple was saying 5G 69 times. Now, Verizon puts out a tweet saying that you should turn off 5G. So in a tweet on Sunday, which was spotted spotted by The Verge. We all saw that tweet, Verge, get off your high horse. But Verizon Wireless CS told customers that if they were experiencing more battery drain than usual, they should turn on LTE. As The Verge explains, the implication in this tweet directs consumers to turn off 5G in phones that have it. Considering Verizon's big push into 5G, this seems a bit weird. Are you noticing that your battery life is, this is what the tweet actually said. Are you noticing that your battery life is draining faster than normal? Verizon wrote in the tweet, one way to help conserve battery life is to turn on LTE. And then they just tell you how to turn on LTE, thus turning off 5G. Which is very correct. You know, if you do, normally if you do go down to the a frequency that's more widely used in the area. So, you know, if you have 4G, sometimes turning off 4G and using 3G, if you're abroad seas, that will improve your battery life a whole lot. But the thing is, though, Verizon has been acting like this 5G is the manna from heaven, the bee's knees. A user on Twitter pointed out this irony. Verizon replied to the user but didn't really address his previous battery advice, choosing instead to talk about 5G speeds. The original tweet about preserving battery life by switching to LTE has since been deleted, although you can still see the 5G reply below. So look, according to Pete, my man Whiskey Pete 8, Verizon promotes new 5G ultra speedy phones. Also, Verizon, turn off your 5G, you know, in case you want to save your battery. And then the response, it's important that we complete many troubleshooting steps to find the root cause of any issues with speed. What? We are quickly launching more 5G areas and making updates constantly to improve speeds. Okay, so that's a terrible reply right here. Like they didn't even see like what he was getting at in his tweets, which is usually, you know, it's part of the course when a company replies to your tweet. Basically, they're just saying, you know, to find the root cause of any issues with speed. Meanwhile, the problem they were addressing was regarding battery life. Gizmodo reached out to Verizon to ask for clarification on whether it was really telling customers to turn off their 5G phones to preserve battery life. We'll make sure to update this blog if we hear back. As Mashable points out, 5G could be very well the root cause of battery drain for some phones. Many features and technology as envisioned at first, which is logical. Besides, 5G is a work in progress in the US. Addressing this in a roundabout way is kind of off-put. It's not a roundabout way. Like, if you don't have many 5G antennas in your area where your phone is, your phone's going to do double duty more work to, you know, boost the signal, to find a 5G signal. So, you know, turning it off would boost your battery, but this isn't a roundabout way. Sure, if Verizon came out and flat out said 5G could be the cause of battery drain, some people might get cranky, which is understandable given all the fanfare around 5G, but it will at least be the truth. Like a quick search reveals that other companies have addressed this issue without creating a messy PR situation. Samsung, for instance, dedicated a support page to the issue of battery drains on 5G service. The manufacturer acknowledged that this problem was legitimate and explained that it was due to the limitation of 5G networks, but this would improve as 5G networks expanded. Huawei also addressed the issue on a support page, stating that on a 5G network, more bandwidth is consumed online and therefore more power may be consumed. And then see, Verizon transparency isn't that hard. And end of the article. Oh, let's see this guy's comment on the article. He was asking this years ago, according to Hather79. Higher bandwidth isn't free, it costs more power. Phones already have short battery life today without 5G. That's debatable. And I was asking, well, did they improve battery tech to go with this new 5G tech? Because it's a lot faster, but that also means it draws way more power. So what are they going to do to expand, about expanding? Well, we're just putting in, like, there's been a trend of us, I've had your comment on here the whole long. New battery tech, bigger batteries, what? Oh, I see the plan was to do nothing, and companies are just realizing that now. And this guy, business is business. Word. So what do you guys think? Nigel is flexing about his, you just purchased the Tab S7 Plus. Nice, Nigel. Does it have 5G? And then Brian, Pixel, my Pixel 5 on Visible is 5G DSS. So you have, okay. So just to clarify, on Visible, you're getting 5G on Visible with an Android phone, the Pixel to be specific. That's nice. Because I remember when Visible was saying a few months ago that I was going to come on to iPhones first and then, Android phones later. I didn't know which Android phones would be getting it first. I assumed it was going to be the new Samsung phones. But there's no setting to go LTE only on a Pixel. So you asked out. Oh, 5G on Visible is slower than LTE. Damn, that sucks. That's the problem with everyone just making this 5G as a marketing feature for someone to just get it. It's not yet at least. But according to that guy's comment though, like he was asking, like, what are you gonna do about battery tech? There's been a theme now for the last year of people just putting bigger batteries in phones, Galaxy S Ultra. Can't think of any more options. Well, no, the can't think of the name. The flagship Moto phone that came out last year. Stonking big batteries. Yeah. I'm not gonna trip over 5G, even if I'm trying to hold phones longer. Um, so like, for instance, Sony with their Xperia phones, with the Xperia 1 Mark II and the 5, Xperia 1 Mark II and the 5 Mark II, those don't support 5G in the US end. Could you really blame them? No one knows what the hell is, like, US barely knows what the hell is going on with 5G implementation. I think, of course, but the Xperia Pro, though, the $2,500 phone supports 5G ultra wideband. Next article. Oh, hold on. There, got a message. Sorry, guys. I'm just messaging Alt Dad Tech, who is meant to be the surprise guest for this stream. Fortunately, he has Comcast. I don't know if George is. I texted him. Let me message George too. You all right, George? The fellas are asking. While I wait, let's hit the next story. Next story. Reported on Android Authority by Hadley Simmons, the LG V60 successor could be on an indefinite hold. This is sad, very sad news. Now, as you guys know, one of a phone I showed you on the last live stream some time ago. I had the LG V60. Fortunately, I had to return the LG V60 because it didn't work on Visible, and I had to just give up because LG did not make an unlocked variant of their flagship phone, which was very annoying. Now, LG and its network partners have reportedly decided against field testing the upcoming Rainbow phone, which I'm assuming is supposed to be a project name for the V60 successor. This suggests that the upcoming LG V60 successor has been put on a definite hold. LG has been in talks regarding the future of its mobile division for a while now. With discussions of a sale popping up too. The company's future devices are also said to be affected by the talks, as we previously heard that its rollable phone project has been put on hold. Damn. Now, South Korea's Chosun outlet has reported that LG's upcoming V60 successor, dubbed Rainbow, is on a definite hold. A source familiar with the matter told the outlet that the LG and carrier partners have decided not to push ahead with field testing the device, which was supposed to kick off at the end of February. Oh man. It is claimed that LG was supposed to release the Rainbow phone in March once field testing was completed, suggesting that the actual release is also on hold. The original March release window lined up with a December 2020 report, which also pointed to a Snapdragon 888 chipset and a Wacom style support for the new phone. Okay, a Wacom. That's nice. The February field test schedule is set by LG Electronics and mobile operators for the launch of Rainbow in March, but there's no real movement yet. We've asked LG for a response regarding the reported delay, and the company refused to comment. It's clear nonetheless that it's not quite business as usual for LG's mobile division. Would you be interested? Yes, I would be interested in the LG V60 successor. Is it an LG V70? Stupid question. Damn, that sucks. I can't catch a break on this, on a V series, on a good V series phone. I mean, I do have a V20, but I broke that while I was repairing it. I broke it while repairing it. Can you imagine on my V20? But you know what also gets me about this article? Like, it said LG Electronics and its mobile partners had shelved field testing the phone. What about the unlock? Does that mean there's also not going to be an unlocked model again? Oh my gosh. That means they're going to release another V series phone without, and I can't buy it. Oh, fuck. Shit. Sorry guys, I'm getting all my swearing out of the way because I'm about to let in, a distinguished guest, founder of the show, Mobile Geezer. Hey.
Yeah, you're about to let in the old fart, that's all.
Hey, George, you all right? You good? You all worried about
Yeah, I'm just running way behind on stuff today. I got off work very late today, so sorry about it. Thought you had a special guest.
Oh, what did you say? George? Ah, George, come on. George? George, are you okay? Is it me or you?
And you can't. It's definitely me. I gather you can't hear me.
Okay. No, I can hear you.
Okay.
Hey, what was that last thing you said before?
I said I thought you were having a special guest.
Boom!
Oh,
you
man.
were right.
There you go. Okay.
What's going on, guys? This is like first time I've seen you guys face to face. Although I follow both of you on at least on YouTube and Twitter. I haven't figured out a lot of the social media stuff. I feel like I've missed the mark on some things with the Snapchat and everything. Everyone cross post everything, but I made it, and it sounds like Mobile Geezer, you might have Comcast too, because I have horrible network here for some reason today. So, and it's either Comcast or it's nothing else because there's nothing else here. But I appreciate you guys bringing me on here, and so I'm definitely I'm excited to talk to you guys.
What are you streaming
Yes,
on,
I have,
David?
have Comcast also, because I live in somebody else's house and they insist on having Comcast because they're totally tech as good as Comcast.
Yeah, most people that have Comcast, they don't usually do it by choice. Let's just I'll put it that
they
way.
usually don't have a
It's
choice.
usually like,
Well, no.
Yeah, I don't have Verizon. So.
No, here they do it by choice. We have EPB fiber optics here. Normally, the two fastest fiber optic networks in the world are Google and this one right here in Chattanooga. They choose to have Comcast.
Interesting.
Why anybody would do that is beyond me. The day that they put in fiber optics, when I was still married to Eleanor, I turned my Comcast box in that day, and there was a long line of people doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, I'm in the Northeast over here. Well, let me answer. I think someone asked me, what am I streaming on? So this is actually just my iPhone just chilling here. So I don't know how great it looks. I don't know if it's getting compressed and if network.
It looks fine from here.
It's actually looking fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Well, I'll take it. And then the audio is AirPods, so hopefully there's no, I guess, reverb or echoing going on. But to your point, in Northeast, I'm in the South Jersey area, about 20 minutes from Center City, Philly, and they're just like everywhere. I mean, it's weird how like Verizon rolls out fiber. They'll roll it on like a single street and then stop and never touch it for a year or a decade. And I know there's a whole bunch of political aspects to it, but it's unfortunate. But I'm glad it's working now for you.
What town are you in?
So I'm near Mulligan Hill in South Jersey. I'm trying to think of something more.
Close to NKBHD, right?
Yeah, so I was actually just up, well, not up there, not at his place, but I took the train up to New York City today for something, and I know I think he's in Hoboken, so he's in my neck of the his neck of the woods, really, but.
He lives in Hoboken. His studio is in Kearney.
Oh, okay.
I'm from the same area where he's from, so.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's very densely populated over here. So Comcast has a lot of issues here, and I can't really switch. In fact, they actually just sent us a letter or whatever saying that they have a new throttling tier. You know, you can only use a certain amount now. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But what you gonna do?
You just call up your wait. Do either of you watch George? You probably don't watch South Park. But how about you, David?
So here's the thing. I'm really weird with shows. Right? Like, it took me years. And this is going to sound like crazy to certain people. Like Family Guy. A lot of these shows, I get very comfortable with shows, and I just rewatch them over and over again, which I think a lot of people do. But for me, it takes me a long time to trust the show, or at least get into it and learn the characters. And so I have watched Family Guy before. I definitely Family Guy. South Park before.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, you were right. Yeah. And it's good. I just don't find myself going, oh, I got to like finish where I left off, or, oh, like I'll watch it. I think it's funny. I think they poke fun at a lot of interesting things, and I'm all about that. But like me, I am a little bit more of the, I guess, scary horror kind of alt scene, if you will. And bad tech, not that necessarily means scary and horror, but it does take me time to really like get into a show. Like the last show that like really got me, this is going to sound sick, and now that everyone likes the show, but Breaking Bad, I remember when that wasn't really popular and I was watching it, that show sucked me in, and so it takes a lot, honestly, for me. But anyway, I'm assuming there's some reference to something that we've said.
I'm the born again Christian here, so I'm the one who doesn't like cursing. I can't stand shows like South Park. Okay.
No, I get it too. You know, I get it. Sometimes gratuitous language can really take away from.
Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you both. I watching a lot of originals lately, or some. My best friend's wedding. Oh, look at him! He's got it up there. Anyway,
can you guys hear it?
Homecoming. Huh?
I can't hear it. No.
No, can't hear it at all.
They're just coming up. Well, yeah, they're just coming up to Comcast with a complaint. Never mind. I'm just gonna.
I feel like I got the overall vibe of what just happened, so I'm just gonna go with that. And then we'll also save his ears there, so it's a win-win-win.
But no, like customers call. I'm sure Comcast customer service would love to hear your complaints.
Yeah, you think so? You think so?
Yeah.
My Comcast is really acting up a lot.
Yeah, it's a mixture. I mean, again, I don't know. Like for me, it's just intermittent. Like I'll be fine. I think this is the limitation of how like they've laid their technology, like coax versus I guess fiber and all that stuff. Like it's just a giant trunk.
Are you
What's up?
using Wi-Fi, David, or are you just using your mobile data on the iPhone?
This is actually mobile,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm like wondering how this is going to look.
That's why it's working.
Yeah, which is amazing to me. You think cellular connection would be more intermittent or haphazard than like a wired like connection, but
5G.
This is 5G, and there's that whole conversation of like real 5G. It says 5G. I don't know if it's the real 5G, but it says it.
Why wouldn't it be real? Is it? Why do you have AT&T?
No, it's just, oh man, see, you're gonna start me on a little bit of a rant here. It's the derivative nomenclature of 5G that bothers me, because there's 5G, then there's 5GE, then there's low band, mid band, and different types of 5G, and they all have different pros and cons. Like for example, I have T-Mobile, and from my understanding is while it's not as fast as what is it, ultra wideband like Verizon?
Ultra wideband, yeah.
Right, it has more range. So it's like, okay, this is really 4G just with extended range, which if you remember, or I'm sure you guys do if you're seeing, there is extended range LTE, there's LTE-A, which is carrier aggregation. It gets really weird, and it just plays into that like consumer confusion. So they just label 5G because it's a quick buck for them because it's trending. So I joke that, is it real 5G? I don't know, because carriers and phone manufacturers have gotten together and been like, hey, why don't you put 5G in that status bar for us? That way, these consumers and customers, they think they're getting something. Like the iPhone 4S, I specifically remember this. I don't know how AT&T managed it, but it was HSPA plus or some version. It was like faster than 3G, but it wasn't 4G. Well, somehow Apple and AT&T got together and they actually updated the AT&T iPhones. And you know how it knows when you're, which phone you're running, whatever, in iTunes.
Yeah, I remember that was actually reported.
Yeah, so they put 4G in it, and people were like, wait a minute, how do I have 4G? And listen, like, I know in the tech world, sometimes, we think, well, people know, they must know. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I was in college at the time. Everyone was like, yo, I got 4G now. Or the people at AT&T, at least. It's like, you don't even want to get into it. It's like, oh, yeah, cool,
Yeah, it came with HSPA plus.
Mm-hmm. So that's how I feel about 5G. It's just like, yeah, it's the thing, but I guess really, and I'm curious, Mr. Geezer, his opinion on this. I feel like they know that most people aren't going to know a difference. They're going to see the logo and just go, oh, cool, I have it. Because again, there's like so many versions of it, But the problem, in my estimation, is they present it all like it's this ultra wide, fast, 5 gig, 10 gig, 100 gig down. That's 5G. And so when people see that on their phone, they just assume that they're getting that. And I'm like, well, really, a lot of it is LTE. It's just saying 5G. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel.
Well,
So George,
to me,
that's
right now in this country, 5G networks that actually work. One is Verizon's MM. What is it? MM what?
MIMO?
millimeter wave.
But it works. But somebody walks by and yeah, millimeter wave. So somebody walks by and you lose it. So to me, I think that's pretty useless because you have to be within 50, 25 feet and you go around a corner and it's gone. So the most consistent one right now in this country is T-Mobile. And that's because they started with the low band and they made sure they got Sprint, and now they're running a lot of mid-band, and that's the only consistent one in the country. And I've got that only in Chatham.
Yeah.
Obviously, Comcast doesn't want you to get that full message out, George. So
Yeah, but no, he's right. I mean, the overall tenor of what he said is exactly right. I feel like every time there's a new version of mobile technology, like cellular, there's different ways to go for it. There's like the short-term gain, and then there's a long-term gain. I think T-Mobile played it smart because that's more advantageous for people today versus Verizon's is like,
so do I.
Sure, like you can sit there, in line of sight and get 5G, but that rollout and the cost of that's something that it's so expensive that they're literally going to have to add, and then it's such a slow pace that I'm not exaggerating. I genuinely think they'll be talking about 6G before everyone's covered by 5G. It's incredibly expensive. It's very much political because you have to put these nodes onto building existing infrastructures. So it's not like they can just go do whatever they want. They have to go through the proper channels to do that. Versus T-Mobile is like, hey, you know what? Let's get service to more people. And yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm not getting 10 gigs down, but let's be honest. And I'm like a flack for this. I understand that, going forward with technology makes sense and there's always going to be a push towards something better. But at the same time, me personally, I will take a consistent 50, 100 down, 25 down, than like maybe something super fast if I'm standing in the city on an edge of a building and there's no rain. Like to me, Verizon it reminds me when Sprint invested a ton of money into WiMAX. I don't know if you guys remember that. Sprint made the wrong bet.
That.
And yeah, they bet that it was this kind of in between 4G and 3G. And what happened was all the other carriers said, you know what, we're going to stay to 3G. And once 4G is fully ready to go, then yeah, we'll go with that. And then Sprint took that short-term gain and they worked with HTC and other companies. And yeah, they were okay for a year or two. And then boom, as soon as actual 4G came out, they got left in the dust. And they really never recovered. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's effectively kind of what happened. And so Verizon, to me, is taking a weird strategy because I understand the speeds and all that stuff is awesome, but the amount of people that can get it, it's so few and far between. And I'm like, who is this benefiting, That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and this is why I've said from the beginning, you can check with it. I've been saying for a year, I don't think they're ever going to fully implement millimeter wave. I think it's going to cost way too much money. I don't think it's ever going to get done.
No, it really won't.
So it's good for Verizon that at least now they're pulling in the low band and the mid band.
What was interesting to me is I remember
Ted, we're not letting you talk.
Yeah, Ted. We gotta let. What are your thoughts on 5G or 5GE or 5G millimeter wave, 5G UWB? Sounds like a math equation.
I was actually just happy letting you guys talk, to be honest. It was a lot of good points. I already made most of my points available with the first article where Verizon was basically telling people hey, if you want, longer battery life, turn off your 5G. But ironically, 5G, has been all on Verizon's mouth since 2019. And, Verizon, the reason why Apple was saying 5G 69 times during their keynote, and now they're saying, hey, guys, maybe you should just turn off 5G if you want better battery life, And according to the tweet, there wasn't a response to anyone. It was just a general suggestion tweet from their customer care service, which, they're not wrong. It's just hilarious.
Well, right. And that gets into a conversation. I think Flossie Carter brings this up, He's like, this phone is being sold with all of these features, but you're telling me to extract certain value that I have to turn some of it off. He's like, no, I want to use full brightness. everything on, and I get there's a balance between the two, right? Like if you have all of these features on full blast all the time, you're not going to get the same battery life, but you feel like there's a sleight of hand when they're like, hey, we can do all of these things and here's our battery life. And then you find out the battery life test was like, oh, well, we had the screen on 1% brightness in low power mode, airplane mode, nothing connect. It's like, okay, like, is that a genuine use case for anyone? Not really. And so, you know, I think they actually removed it. I was listening to a podcast. I think they took it down.
Yep, as they should.
Well, that's why I love Flossie. Flossie gives it to you straight, and he doesn't give a crap what you think about it. You know.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that approach. You know, it's I really, you know, maybe this is getting into tech YouTubers. I just like a general consistency, you know, with reviews and in talking about stuff. And I got to give him credit. I mean, not that he needs it from me, but I do appreciate the fact that, like, he calls manufacturers out when he doesn't like what they do. You know, like, I think a pretty decent rant on Samsung not including the charger. He's the only reviewer that I know that, I mean, it was trendy, right? For like a year when the iPhone 10 came out, all the reviewers like, oh, phone prices are expensive. They never really worded it like it was a bad thing. They just kind of made it seem like, well, that's just the cost of technology. And I was like, okay. Flossie has yet to succumn to that. He says on, I think almost every phone that's over like $800, it's too high, too high, it's too high. Bring it down. And, yeah, he's like, if you're gonna bring it, or if you're gonna take away features, I need more. And another thing, and I'm curious what you guys think about Flossie. He does. Is that when it comes to software, right? How many reviews do you watch or listen to, or whatever, and you hear like, well, maybe a software update will fix it, or Samsung promises a patch down the road. This isn't finalized software. And Flossie's point is literally on point. He says, you're asking me for $1,000, $1,200 today, right now for this phone, right? You're not asking me for $900, and we'll give you and pay us the rest. We fix this feature. I think this was in relation to the S21 Ultra when there was a little bit of an autofocus issue, or a big one, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. And he was like, you're not telling me to pay $700 today, and then when you fix that issue, I'll give you the rest. You want all the money. You want all my money right now. So I want all of what you're doing and everything you're claiming. I want it right now. And I'm like, dang, man, it's simple, but it impacted how I looked at it. I'm like, that's very true. And I don't see other reviewers doing that. At least I'm talking like the massive channels, right? I don't see them saying, hey, maybe hold off because Samsung's promising this. We don't know. And they also don't cover it either. You know, they word it like, you know, we'll see, but they never go back to it. So you don't know, you know. That's one thing that I kind of find interesting in the tech world. I don't want to generalize because I know there's a lot of other channels out there that probably do this stuff, right?
I think it was the S20.
Yeah, you're right.
Saying that about.
But I don't think he ever went back after the software update.
As far as I remember.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no review.
No, I've never seen on any phone ever.
Now, what is that there? I didn't.
That's the S21 Ultra.
I beg you.
Yeah, Galaxy S21 Ultra.
Just go ahead and live stream on that.
Oh yeah, I was just when I see what his clarity is, I'm like, yeah, maybe next week I'll do it with one of the phones.
No,
you know.
not next week, George. You can do it now.
I am genuinely curious though. So do you have Bob on that phone where you are? That would be a testament. Imagine, you know, which is, I mean, I could ramble on about so many topics because they all intermingle at the end of the day. But
I have it on both. I have it on the iPhone and on the.
Interesting. Because
you just froze for a second.
I did. Hopefully.
Yeah. It only happened for a few seconds though.
Oh, okay. Well, what I find interesting is the push for like T-Mobile, I think AT&T, and I want to say Verizon. They're trying to get into the home internet space. There we go.
Right.
But talking about 5G and using your phone and clarity, you know, I'm interested to see where like T-Mobile and AT&T and Verizon, they're all pushing into the home now and setting up these boxes. I'm curious how that's going to work because, and here's my tinfoil hat, which isn't really tinfoil hat because it's reality. They already have a million different plans that are all unlimited, right? And I'm like, okay, well, now that they're imitating an ISP to a certain extent by, hey, put this box in here and you can do what you've been doing, just you don't need Comcast or Verizon. I'm like, is there going to be like a bait and switch to that? Like, here's the box, unlimited, right? People start switching and it's like, well, do you want the streaming package for $10 for Hulu and YouTube or whatever, or do you want, I don't know, the Hallmark package? Like, where does that go? Because they're already doing that now, right? Like, do you want unlimited with 480p streaming, or do you want unlimited with 1080p? Or if you're T-Mobile now with the Max plan, I think you can stream in almost 1440p. They've changed it, and I'm like, what are they going to do with this in-home internet now? If they get in there, are they going to create all of these like fractions?
You're right. They're going to give you the bonus plan and the max plan and this plan and that plan, and they're going to add on little pieces to each one. You know.
That is insane. I hope they don't. Like, if you go, and this is any carrier, if you go to any carrier right now and just search plans, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Renz's comment.
Yeah, Sax is near your stream is flawless. I don't know, man. It sounds like he's a little stitious.
Last week I played Renz, so.
But I hope it doesn't go down that route, because again, it gets into like, I mean, I guess in a weird way, it is a net neutrality thing, right? Like treating all of the internet just as the internet, and these carriers and entities are just a vessel. They have no input on anything else. But I'm like, I don't know. I look at what the carriers are doing. I'm like, I pray it doesn't reach the ISPs. I unfortunately, I think it is at some point in time going to become like, well, we're going to tailor the plan to what you do specifically. Because if they can kind of limit your bandwidth in one way or another and hope it doesn't affect you, they're going to, right? If they can say, well, it doesn't look like, even now when you call them and say, I need internet, well, how many devices do you have hooked up? Well, that's not how that really works, right? Because a device, a smart bulb is going to use nothing. If I have a backup network server switches, that's going to use up a lot more. So just saying how many devices flippantly is not an accurate way to determine someone's use case, you know? And so, I don't know. I see the internet and it's becoming a utility for the most part. Everyone needs it. I can't believe there's students out there that can't get internet. And it takes someone like Elon Musk launching his own. I don't even know what the dude's doing. I feel like he's floating up there right now. Like it's like amazing to me. You know, I don't want to get political, but I'm like, man, like every child should have access to internet. You need it these days. It's
especially now. Yeah,
it's crazy.
This pandemic should have just showed that.
It did. It honestly, not to say that there was any benefits to this whatsoever, but it did poke a lot of obvious holes into like distant learning and our infrastructure and how easily it was taxed from this pandemic to other stuff. Let's see, Elon Musk did not die in a car. I can't imagine who started that rumor. Car battery. Is that today?
Yeah, that was all today.
Wow.
So stupid.
It was streaming on. It was trending on Twitter that he died.
You know what's interesting? I feel like this happens with people randomly. Like who's the other?
I didn't even.
Norris has had it happen to him like 3 times. There's a few people. It's like I'm like
Paul McCartney.
It happens with Morgan Freeman like every year.
All right, I'm going to go off and try to come back with the phone. We'll see.
Oh baby, this is like a real live test.
Yes. Oh God, this is live stream history, folks. Way to go, George.
I'm impressed with the phone here. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'll have to watch after and see. I don't know what. I've never used StreamYard before, honestly, but I feel like it's really popular right now.
It's been popular since the pandemic. Because it does all the heavy lifting for broadcasting your stream. You don't have to worry
I was going to. Yeah, I was going to use a camera. You know, it's funny. You don't really know how much work, and I say this now that I've started to try to get into this a little bit. You don't know how much work goes into just like what we would consider maybe not as high a quality as video as like an MKA, BH. They always butcher that. And I'm like, man, there is so many things you have to like work on. Like the amount of effort. Like I've always known it's been a lot of work, but you know, I'm sure you're a fan of Juan. He's, you know, some gadget guy. And, you know, he kind of reiterates that in a lot of his videos and podcasts. He's like, you know, content creation is not easy. It's not just, you know, you turn on the camera and everything happens. And, you know, I knew that until I started trying to do this. I'm like, there are so many moving parts and it's just insane. And so it's like a massive, like eye-opening experience, you know, for people that do make videos. I'm like, you know, kudos to you, especially if you have a family and a full-time job and you're doing all that and this. I'm like, because it is a ton of
once you get your feet wet with it, like it's just like this stuff you have to It's
100%,
not like,
man. It is.
when you're cooking with ingredients. It's not like it's sort of similar to cooking with ingredients in the kitchen, but then
Hmm.
instead of you're in the kitchen where you're just done with the ingredient, cat to the side, you always have to be present with that ingredient when you're live
Hmm.
streaming or making a video.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's tough too because what I find, and I don't like generalizing, so this is just my opinion, but what I find, at least in the tech YouTube world, is that even if you have really compelling content or strong content or engaging content, like if you don't have like a level of like production value, it's going to be hard, man. And I see that to a certain extent now. And like, listen, I'm not saying everyone needs red 8K cinema cameras and all these rigs and stuff, which is what some of these people use. But like, I see a lot of people, if you just turn on the camera and start filming, eventually it'll take off. And I'm like, I don't know, like that's great, and I hope that works for people. But I'm like, you almost have to look at some of these bigger channels and reviewers or whatever they're doing and try to emulate that the best you can, because that's what's going to at least get someone interested, but maybe
yeah,
that's unique to tech, maybe it's more tech oriented, and the other, the reality of it is it's just unique to us. I don't know, but
yeah. I think it's just people usually just mistake the forest for they mistake the tree for the forest, where they
yeah.
just see the high production value, and then they say, okay, like if I do that, this and that, like
Hmm.
I'll get the views. Like people just say, like it's not about the gear, and that's not exactly true at
Yeah,
all.
no.
No, but you do like just need some sort of gear to,
Yeah,
hit record and put out something. But I feel like,
yeah.
it doesn't really matter how good the gear is. There are
Yeah.
many YouTubers with million subscribers who, to this day, Jesus Christ, look at that improvement. To this day, you know,
Hmm.
share film their content with an Android phone.
Here we go. This is it. Wow.
Look at that. Look at that improvement. Wow.
It's like my first time watching 4K, man.
Ooh.
This is nuts.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think George has been this clear ever. George,
Let's give him
what
a
are you
moment.
admiring
Either
yourself?
is he trolling us right now? He's about to drop
He's
the
just
sickest album ever.
That's no better here.
it looks
It's
better.
worse, actually.
It's amazing that I'm on the East Coast and he's in, I think,
Oh,
Tennessee.
George, change your settings. Make sure you're not uploading on the highest quality on your camera. Like use
Oh yeah,
480p, upload to 480p, because you look really crisp.
yeah.
Well, I think it's okay. I had Wi-Fi on. I just turned it off.
Oh, he had the Wi-Fi on. It's the little things.
Well, it is crazy to think that Comcast is not only bad where I am, but if you go to Tennessee, where George is, it's equally as bad. It's like hey, listen, it's consistently horrible. I got to give them credit. They're living up to their low expectations.
That cast all the way.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. A lot better now, except I have no background.
So it looks
And,
like, did he freeze on us a little bit, or is that just
his
me?
image is frozen, but his audio is coming better.
Either he's
Unless,
frozen or he's an excellent ventriloquist.
Okay, I'm not seeing any freezing here.
I wonder if it captured that frame, and then now that he's clear, it's still stuck. I wonder if he joins again, if he leaves real quick and joins again.
yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
There we go.
There we go.
Better now?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Not as crispy as it once was, but yeah.
But yeah, that's I'm gonna have to go check out. I've watched a few of Mobile Geezer's videos, and I like his kind of unique outlook on things, and that's what I like to see, man. Like I see a lot of his posts and some of the fitness tracking he does, and to me, like I get so much more value out of people that show me like how these devices and like technology works for them specifically, instead of like this processed like here's how it will work for you. Hopefully, maybe these are the claims, right? Those are very different outlooks on tech. And so I do like finding these, I say smaller, but not in a derogatory sense, but like, again, I'm looking at like, the top 5 channels, these smaller channels. I'm like, man, it's nice to see someone say like, I bought this device. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. They continue to use it, the software updates, especially with the cost of these things, and consumers, which Juan and even myself in one of my videos, I bring it up. I'm like, they're not spending the average, which I know is played out, but most people aren't going into Verizon, Best Buy and saying, I want a $1,500 iPhone. I want a $1,200 Samsung phone. Now, me and you two, we might do it because we're into this, right? And we get the value from it and we know how to extract the value. But I'm like, the average person, man, they're going in and buying the cheapest iPhone, the SEs, the 11s, not the Pros, the 12s, not the Pros, the S21, not the Ultras, right? For the most part, when you get the data after the year has ended. And it seems like in our world, our bubble, we focus on the exact opposite. We look at the most expensive, outrageous devices, and then we compare everything else in the market to that. That's the metric that everything else has to meet. And I'm like, you're missing this, and you're missing the actual people, and you're creating content. And, I mean, it's a niche. It's still millions and millions of people, but that's why I like these more anecdotal reviewers, because I'm like, oh, let me see how his workflow, what it is, and how did his Apple Watch, how it has it aged. I remember, and I'm curious if you guys remember this. I know Pocket Now had After the Buzz, which is like 6 months in, which is not really that long, but they would relook at the devices, right?
Yeah,
I love that, and they axed it because I guess it wasn't hot enough for YouTube. Who cares 6 months later, because we're talking about phones in the 2030 year. But I don't know if you guys feel the same way. That's how I feel, at least in the current state of things.
No, I
caught
thought
up.
I thought the After I thought that was one of their best features.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, me too.
100%.
I think Juan was saying he's going to find a way to restart that bit. He did do the first episode of that bit, where he looks at a phone again after a prolonged use. The first one was the Xperia 1 Mark II after the Android 11 update.
You just reminded me of that write-up he did in the video I did about. I probably shouldn't have put reviewer, but that, like, you bring up an excellent topic, which is, I hate saying this because it sounds pejorative, but a lot of these large reviewers have kind of turned into influencers, and you get a more.
Yeah, they are influencers.
Yeah,
influencers.
You get a more TMs, 100%.
Yeah, value. They're more.
Yeah,
their value is more in that they're more of an influencer than a reviewer.
Yes. And what I've seen, so let me give you guys some context, because we're talking like we've known each other for 10 years, which is cool. I love that. But for me, like, I have followed this literally since it's somewhat of its inception, right? I remember John Rettinger before John for Lakers, and Techno Buffalo. I remember Michael Fisher before really Pocket Now. So I've been following like the YouTube tech world for so long, and I've seen things kind of go from actual reviews, like long reviews, right? You used to get like the big hands, it always use hands and two phones, and they would do speed tests and they would talk about all that stuff. And now it's turned into like a lot of reviews feel like it's just an extension of whatever manufacturer has claimed. It's like an extension of their marketing team. Hey, here's what Samsung told me is different. Here's what I've experienced the first day, and then it's like off to next year until the S22 or the next iPhone, and it's like there's got to be more to this. And that's why I actually really like Juan, because he's like, I don't know, he's like antithetical to everything YouTube pushes, right? YouTube pushes TMZ, outrageous wish I built PC, and this phone is insane or whatever. And I'm like, I'm so tired of that, man. So tired of it.
Plus, like Boston and Erica.
Yes. Those are the two exceptions to my overgeneralization that I probably shouldn't do, but I think it helps get my point across, once or not.
I forgot my sweet potato fries in the oven.
Oh, I love sweet potato fries, man.
Try coming in on my S21 Ultra.
He's going to try to come in on his S21 Ultra. Let's see. Yeah, but no,
What
while
was
you
he on
were
before?
probably the iPhone. I think he said he has the iPhone on 5G and then the S21 Ultra on 5G. So we'll find out. But yeah, that's kind of. I mean, I was kind of going over my history, on in the tech world. You don't really see too many new people pop up, right? And in a way that they become, somewhat relevant, and I'm not saying that's me at all, but, I've followed this scene and seen the same people that are really still involved now. Like John for Lakers, or John Rettinger before he was Techno Buffalo, and he used to do unboxing in his house. And I remember watching, I don't know if you remember this, Noah and Aaron from Phone Dog where it was like before we had smartphones. They were like
Oh shit! Whatever happened to those guys?
yeah. So Aaron, he actually, this is what's crazy. None of people know this. Aaron actually worked at Techno Buffalo for like a really short amount of time. They actually did a video about Aaron joining Techno Buffalo, and then like literally a month later it didn't work out, and they did a video and they were like, hey, you know, some things just don't work out, and they tried it, and I don't know what happened, but he left, and then I think then he went to work for HTC. I don't know if it was on marketing or something, but he started to work for HTC, and I think he's still there doing something. My point with all that
now
is like,
I'm on the S21 Ultra.
Man.
Well, we told you to go on the first time, George.
Crisp.
Yeah.
Well, the iPhone was closer.
Crisp.
Those are the exact words Marquez said when he was reviewing the LG G8.
He said what, Chris?
Except I can't hear this phone very well for some reason.
Well, don't you have Galaxy Buds, bud?
Huh?
Don't you have Galaxy Buds, bud?
One of them stopped working. I think I dropped it too many times. Give me a sec.
Is it connected to that, whatever you have in your ear? I guess not.
I don't know.
You always have stuff going on in the background. But what was I saying?
We were romanticizing the early days of tech YouTubers. At least I was, because I'm a fan of that era. I miss it.
I know. I was thinking about the newcomers on the block, and the newest one is you, obviously. Which 100 subscribers in 2 months. That's pretty good. Actually, it's excellent. I said pretty good. Yeah. It's actually excellent.
I don't even know what the metrics are. Here's the thing that I've learned, and I'm hoping that this is what will keep me kind of motivated to do it. It gets kind of, I've always wanted to do it, but you really do come up with a million reasons why, right? You hear that all the time, that trope, you can always think of, why not to do something. And you're like, yeah, but, my reasons are more legitimate. And they're like, you're proving the point, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, why don't I at least try it? Because it's something I've always wanted to do. And I think that putting that, or the emphasis on that of like, hey, this is something I truly would like to do, passionate about. I've always been involved. I've watched more YouTube than I would ever admit. In fact, I hope they don't release like Spotify does, how many hours you've watched in a year, because it would probably be sad to a certain extent for me, because I like engaging online. Yeah. So, I don't know what this will turn into. Right? I don't know what the normal, I've kind of stayed away from looking at how fast can I get subscribers. I am more in the camp of, if I can get 50, 100 people that are similar to how I feel about these things, and we can all get together, I'm fine with that. If it ends up being 100, great. If it ends up being 100,000, great. That isn't my motivation. And so I think that will somewhat prevent me from getting the burnout, or my expectations are too high, because I put the fact that I enjoy this first, and then whatever happens after that, like, it is what it is, And so that's going to be my approach. I'm not looking to emulate another channel. I'm not looking to, chase fame or whatever, clearly. So that's kind of my approach to this, and we'll see. That's I know that there's a whole YouTube algorithm, so I don't know how you guys found me to begin with, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like, go rectangle subreddit.
Yeah, there we go. See, that subreddit is
we actually
powerful,
have a segment at the end of the show where we look at the top post on the glowing rectangle subreddit. And like, you were there, and we were like, all right, so we just checked you out on the stream, and it was your first video, so yeah, we posted up our comments, we gave you likes, and subscribe. I don't know if you remember my first comment, where you were asking for suggestions. And I was like, hey, you should totally use the Sony Alpha 1 camera. And you replied you were like, yeah, it's a good camera. And I just suggested, because it was a $6,000 camera, and it was like a funny thing to just, hey, use a $6,000 camera. That'll help.
Just no lenses or anything, but good body, you'll be all right. But it's funny you mentioned Sony, because Juan had the write-up, when it came to Austin Evans. It's kind of circling back in a weird way to what we were talking about a minute ago. And I'm like, I'm watching this review, and I'm like, I'm going to be nice, right? Like, I don't want to go ad hominem. I think he's a nice guy. But again, just to give you more context, I remember when he wasn't Austin Evans, it was like Duncan 3303, and he was all about PCs and customness. Like, his name was Duncan.
Before the house? Was that before the
Yeah.
house burned down? Or
Yeah, like
after?
I'm
Oh,
talking
before the house.
way back, like Duncan 3-3. He wasn't working with John Morrison or any of those guys. He was doing his own thing. I remember him then. Like that compared to now, you can just see, and I don't know if this is, I'm not trying to come off as derogatory, but you can see it go from someone that cared about tech and reviewing to more of I'm a YouTube influencer and I need to create outrageous videos for views. I need to maintain that, right? And I don't even blame the content creators. I think YouTube does a poor job of feeding that positive loop, right? Like I get that it's cool to go, I bought a $1 PC on Wish and you got like the Macaulay Culkin, I understand that there's obviously a niche for that, but I feel like that has made its way too far into tech overall. And instead of us looking to do stuff like we're doing here, I mean, we're an hour, I could go forever. We're an hour in, right? Instead, we get like a 5 to 8 minute, like, bam, bam, no, here's a quick look at something. And Samsung, I find it funny that they go, oh, Samsung or, Apple didn't pay me, but I'm like, okay. Like, but you're getting early access. So you're getting vicarious benefits, right? Like, sure, they're not handing you $1 million and saying, do a good review. But what they're doing is they're allowing you to get devices early, which is SEO friendly. Like if I could get my hands on a Note 21 Ultra before anyone else, I don't care how bad the video is, it's going to get views because no one else can get their hands on it or see it. And so that to me has played an effect on tech reviews because I think manufacturers realize that they can control the narrative of reviews by controlling who gets the first look. And access journalism across the boards is bad, at least in my opinion, especially when it comes to reviewing stuff. And that's what they do. Apple's, when they release a HomePod or some device that's new, what do? Well, they get like 7 or 10 YouTube, right, creators, and they have this controlled environment, right? So in this instance, if I had a channel with 50,000 subs or 100, then Apple reaches out to me and says, hey, we want you to come here and look at this. What do you think I'm going to say? You think I'm going to be honest, even if it's terrible? No, I'm going to be like, oh, this is great. Please, Apple, invite me here again. So that to me is played a more.
Oh, no. Back on the.
Had to go back to the original.
Yeah.
Just send this to Comcast. Don't even leave a review. Say, hey, you want to know what Comcast is like? Watch this video. There's certain parts you'll see.
But I had to go back to the original. I couldn't get the phones to work right.
I wonder if there's a setting that is enabled on something.
Oh, when you're talking,
not liking.
Were you guys talking about?
Yeah. Hey, George, can you try to limit your broadcast? I did a question about that. Try to limit your broadcast quality on the settings for general.
On what?
In the settings, limit your broadcast quality.
I'll give it a shot.
I saw a comment said something about Austin Evans is cringe. Hey, listen, I'm not going to say that. I kind of agree. Again, it's that review was, I don't even call it a review. That was actually like sad to watch, right? Because it does speak to an overall like systemic kind of like, this is a lot of reviews feel. That's not unique to Austin. It was just like this, like, let's make fun of this device. And I actually did just a video on it because I'm like, these are the same people that, like, when you hear about LG, right? LG has been made fun of for years, and I get it to a certain extent, right? They've tried a lot of things. They really have.
Lord knows they tried. They tried.
They did. And it's funny that these reviewers, they didn't help LG at all, right? It's not like they did them favors. If anything, they were like, oh, why buy an LG when they're Samsung? It's like, okay. Then when there's talks of LG potentially, selling off their mobile division or shrinking their mobile division, you get all this like romanticized editorials of like, oh, LG, poor LG, we have competition. In fact, Android Central did an article. It was like,
case in point. One thing we always say about LG, poor marketing, bad marketing. We all say that.
This is true.
For the LG, what was it, LG V60 or the LG, I think it was the LG V8X, where all of a sudden LG was promoting the phone like on an Eminem music video. That what was that? Was his name Little Yachty music video? Where you could see the phone clearly at LG phone. All of a sudden, Marquez tweets out like, "Hey, is this right? This should be like, this should be stated or something like, they can't just put product placement out like this." Meanwhile, this man probably hasn't said shit all the years about Beats putting product placements on literally everything. But LG does
Yeah.
it, and now like we should look into this. Like this is kind of shady. Like are they actually just are they putting this out? Like is this like an ad or something?
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to, the controlling of the narrative.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
they
right.
just
And, actually, the last phone that LG, I think, saw a successful launch on was the LG G4. They worked with carriers, they worked with reviewers. I don't know if you remember, that camera was praised to high heavens. And then you had the cool leather back. You could swap the backs
yeah.
out.
I
And they
love that
had,
back.
on a side note, what I find funny about LG, when they did the G5, which was modular, right? You had the battery, the camera. People looked at it like this was the weirdest thing ever. Not for nothing. I'm not Nostradamus, but if you look at Apple and other patents, like this, like clipping on and snapping extra accessories onto your phone, it's starting to become more and more popular, right? You got moment lenses, you have Apple's
Yep.
MagSafe battery, the wallet.
Yeah,
There's accessories that are working that way. And I'm like, man, LG was like almost, now granted, the implementation was a little wonky, right? Because you had like parts exposed and you were opening up the phone and it got kind of weird. But the principle of it was kind of cool. And then the articles from Android Central or whatever it is, it's like, the only one that wins in this scenario is LG. And I'm like, dude, like, when's the last time you gave LG a second look? When's the last time LG got a top 5 phone in your reviews? When's the last time you compared it to Sam? Like, you don't, man. So don't like, listen, be consistent. If you're gonna treat it like a stepchild or something, then keep it that way. But don't do a 180 when it's in the news and it's popular, and you got to hop on it right now because it's popular, and try to twist this like you didn't do anything to help them at all. In fact, you went out of your way to like put them down. And this is true though. LG does have terrible software support
yeah.
for some of their stuff.
What was it? Oh yeah, the V60 just got Android 11. But yeah, you're right, Brian. I'm still on the Android security update on my G8X.
And so, I don't know about you, man. Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, do these manufacturers like just watch like 10 reviews all over YouTube and they would have almost a clear line to success for a phone, right? And then the marks that these companies fall short on are remarkable to me. Now, I'm not in like the logistics and development of this stuff, but like LG, like you got to know that software is important, right? Like even Samsung has come a long way. Now you can argue it's not long enough, it's not consistent enough, it's not for all their devices, whatever. But you're starting to see them at least try. And it's just like how can you expect a consumer to have confidence in something you're selling them when you can't support it past a year, 6 months, whatever it is, But an only device to have SD card support. If you're into audio, other than maybe Sony and some other edge cases, like that quad DAC with some high impedance headphones, decent headphones at all, was like insane, And that's when MKBHD was like master of none. I'm like, okay, like again, it's going into that. Like, are you deliberately ignoring that for a reason? Because granted, it might not be that popular.
He ignored it because he's like, hey, you'd be surprised how many people are audiophiles. But the ones that are, still technically it is a master of audio of audio.
Like imagine the difference in that review, right? The master of none, or hey, the master of audio. Like, yes, it's a niche, 100%, right? Most people don't even know what codecs that are for audio, So I don't know. It just seems like it was deliberately derogatory for no reason, and that's what bothers me. It's the not looking at these devices in depth combined with flippant reviews, and I'm like, okay, like you can have a flippant review if you've reviewed it and used it. And going back to Austin and the Sony phone, I'm like, dude, you could clearly tell, and I firmly believe this. He used that 10 minutes before he did that review.
No, I think I think that like the review wasn't good, but then like he took it even worse by being shit when like with that whole iPhone 12 mini thing, like to show how tall the phone is. Like
so. And David, I wanted to say your take on it was awesome.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I tried to balance because here's the thing, I'll be honest. Oh, sorry, I cut out.
No, it wasn't cut out.
Following but I was very from when Juan first wrote that article, I was
Yeah.
very, very disappointed in Austin because I had never seen him do such a bad review.
Yeah, I think it comes down to it's easier. And listen, it's tough, right? Doing commentary about a reviewer or someone else because, I mean, people could easily say, look at your channel versus his. And I'm like, okay, sure. If we want to go off that, let's do that. But I think it comes down to it's harder to actually use these devices and live with them and do an actual review than to do something like that, right? And like, not to really get like into it about it, but you can just tell by the language, like, oh, it has, IP60 something, and we love Sony Alpha cameras. They're like cameras we have in the house.
IP60 something. Never mind the fact
60
that
something.
Sony was doing water protection phones before any other manufacturer was doing it here in the US.
And
like,
yeah, 100%. And like, I'm like, what is, like, here's the thing, right? You can, everything he said, he has the right to say, but you got to articulate it to a certain extent. If you say it's a boring design, okay, well, for you, what's an exciting design? You didn't say that. Okay, well, it's too tall. Okay, compared to what? The 12 mini. Okay, I'm not a carpenter, but like I know when something is massively tinier than something else. So, okay, that wasn't groundbreaking either. And so, like, as you went through the review and you're like, okay, like you're not even telling me the reasoning behind what you're stating. And it's this like, it's just like this assumption that he knows what he's talking about because he has lots of views, And I'm like, I can promise you that you give me that phone for an hour and my review would have been more in depth, Like, yeah. The biggest selling feature is the fact that Sony is using the Alpha name in this phone, and they just blew by it like it was a side feature.
Hold on. What was the phone again? Was it the 5 Mark II or the 1 Mark II?
I think it was Sony Xperia 5 Mark II.
Okay.
And here's another ironic thing, right?
If it was the 1 Mark II, then the sellout feature, I think, is the 4K display, which nobody else bothers to do.
Yeah, like, and I actually went on, if anything, they're having the Streisand effect because I'm tempted, not because of the video he did, but I'm like looking at the Sony phone. If you go on the website, you're like, okay, the display's killer, right? Sony's been in the display and camera game forever, and audio game, quite frankly, forever. I'm like, the camera is killer. I'm like, the display is killer. And here's what I actually almost spit water out, and I never do that. The software is just too simple and clean. I'm like, wouldn't you? Am I missing something?
Isn't that what everybody asks for?
It's too simple and clean.
He verbatim says, I think he says it's just too simple. The OS, nothing. There's no. I'm like, okay, these are the same reviewers that say Samsung was bloated with TouchWiz, and they like iOS. So I'm like, if you just do a little bit of intellectual like research on some of the videos, I'm like, your videos are contradictory. Even 5G. I'm pretty sure he did a 5G video a year ago, blasting it.
But isn't simple why everybody buys a Pixel?
Right. I mean, I think he did say that, right? Didn't he say like he's going back to his Z Flip, but he loves his Pixel. But I'm just like, I don't know, man. That was so. I don't want to.
Sounds like a good problem to have. Yeah.
I was just blown away by that video. I'm like, wow. Especially knowing that I know he's done better.
But didn't you guys get the impression that since there was 2 guys, I had the impression they went in knowing they were going to bash this phone?
Probably. So this gets into a deeper, honestly, mental thing. So one, we tend to, and I say we, but I think a lot of people that watch content around tech, they tend to think that there's no such thing as a bias, right? That, oh, this reviewer's biased. I'm like, yeah, he's a human. We're all biased and everything. Actually, I just talked about it today with Taylor's of Tech on video. I'm like, yeah. Like, you like chocolate or vanilla. It's an oversimplification, but you're biased towards one or another. You may be able to justify it, right? And rightfully so. You have a right to choose. It's your prerogative. But in tech, we seem to go, nope, you can't be biased. You have to look at this in a vacuum, or you have to look at this through the prism of what I would look at it through.
But that's why.
Go ahead.
Juan tells you what his bias is going in, and Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's crazy to me is that I would argue Juan's not even that biased. It's just that we're so used to like Samsung, Apple, that if someone says like in the corner, hey, I like LG. Oh, look at this fanboy over here likes LG. Like,
Yeah,
you got to
exactly.
ostracize them right away. And this is what was my point originally, and this is a topic that could go on forever, to be honest, but I'm happy opening it up, is this tribalism confirmation bias world that we live in tech, right? People look for reviewers that confirm what they have purchased already. So you're a Samsung fan, you go look for reviews that tell you that Samsung is the best. That's just human nature, right? Because you want to know that you made a good choice. It's not inherently wrong, but where it gets more pernicious is when reviewers know that. And so that's why you get some of the content you do. You get milquetoast reviews where they don't really give you an answer because they don't want to offend one crowd or the other, or they'll do something that's kind of hot TMZ style. I'm switching to iPhone. Here's what I've learned. And it's like, no, dude, you just want the Samsung people to come watch that video, or LG, and feel good that you're switching. And then you want the iOS and iPhone people to come see a video on why are you switching, what went wrong.
Exactly.
So they're playing into this tribalism. It's like iMessage, right? Like blue bubbles green. I'm like, I never got that. But from a psychological standpoint, you want to be sure about everything in your life, right? I mean, it's from insecurity, and everyone's insecure to some degree. I know I am. But people in tech and reviewers, they tend to act like it doesn't exist here. And I'm like, no, it very much does.
No,
the whole blue bubbles, the whole
Yep.
iPhone is better, or Samsung, I'm better. Like that whole vitriol is solely a mental thing. It's, you have people that want to be sure about themselves, and they're looking for someone to confirm that in them. And I know this sounds like deep in that maybe I'm off the wall, but I can tell you it's not too far off the mark. You may disagree, but there is a little bit of a mental thing there. You know, what do you use? What do you use? Why do you use that? Like, imagine, I don't know if you've been in this situation, you're using an iPhone, you blue bubbles, you switch. Why is this green? Why is this green? That isn't because they care about the color or deliver. It's because they're like, oh, someone's using something different than an iPhone.
Yep. Time I change phones, I get that from Mike and Will. But my bias, here's my main bias: Samsung, iPhone, Pixel. Okay, I'm a fanboy of all three. Well, that's me.
There you go.
You know, I'm also a fanboy of Moto. So
yeah, wow, Motorola. I remember the Moto X, the mods and all that. That was cool. What do we have here? I'm not a huge believer that
I don't mind telling people that.
Yeah, so this is an interesting. I'm not a huge believer that stock Android. Listen, I agree, and here's a good point. And I think
pretty knowledgeable
on this. Yeah, because he obviously he has all three phones there, or two, stock and Samsung. What I find interesting about stock is that it seems that ever since One UI became more of a established, desirable skin, that Google seems to kind of like pick at it. Oh, we like this. Oh, we like scrolling screenshots. Yep. Oh, we like this. And it's like, okay. So two things. One, it plays into this comment that it just disappeared. But the comment of stock and simplicity doesn't mean it's better. And I agree. I think what Samsung has done with One UI they have balanced offering a lot of options and advanced features with keeping it simple. I remember in the days of TouchWiz where there was like every pop-up in your face and there were cool features, but you were overwhelmed. Now what they do is if you want those advanced features, you can go find them if you're an advanced user. If you don't, they stay out of your way. Yeah. It's a good medium to be in. But I do
much better than TouchWiz, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, TouchWiz was just garish, and I think every company goes through those growing things. They miss the mark on something. I think some people genuinely like TouchWiz. I just think that they found the balance between, okay, if you ever want to be, they are a contender to the iPhone, but if you want to be a serious alternative to iOS and an iPhone, you have to have a more consumer-friendly approach, and having this fancy device that has all these things popping up in your face and you can do this, you can do that. In the real world, excluding YouTube people that are watching this kind of stuff, like they don't understand that. Like when they see a pop-up about a feature, they're like, oh, what is this? What do I do? Do I have to do this? Do I need to enable this? What is this?
But that's why I think they succeeded with this particular phone, because like you say, you want it, go find it. It's there, but it's not in your face all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where One UI is kind of successful.
Yeah. We got one Samsung skin stopped lagging. I was okay with it. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like, I'm glad that we're starting to, well, iPhone hasn't yet, but Samsung, like the higher refresh rate, man, there's two things that I care about on a screen for me from a user experience standpoint or UI. Like obviously I want the high res and stuff, right? But the touch sample rate and the refresh rate are very pivotal to me. And I don't know if you guys know about the touch sample rate. You probably do. But that, like the iPhone 10 has that for gestures, right? So how quickly the screen reacts to you touching it, it's very much similar to a refresh rate, right? And so Samsung actually, I think they're up to 240, and then the actual display is 120 hertz or something like that. But it gives it that like sticky, smooth. I know that sounds weird. I love it. Now, unfortunately, Apple has decided to not do high refresh rate this past year, which I don't know why the reviews gave them a pass as easily as they did. But I don't want to roast too many reviewers. But I'm like, come on, man, like, you got to call them out. Everyone has budget phones have high refresh rates. I'm like, this phone's $1,200 and no refresh, no high hertz, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
What's the phone that just came out and they're touting the fast sample rate? Can't remember what it is. Something just came out and it's is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's like a ridiculously fast sample rate.
Yeah, sample.
200. Actually, no, yeah. 5
Yeah, so
up to 480.
Oh wow. Yeah, so that's part of the reason, people that I think a lot of people know, but I've really looked into this because I'm like, okay,
240%.
Yep, 240. Yeah, so that's what makes a lot of the using of the phone feel fluid. Sure, high refresh rate helps, right? But and Geezer, you'll probably know this. It also, the iOS has this feeling. There's a feeling, the bounciness and the scrolling, and there is a little bit to that, and that is that touch sample rate combined with optimization. But I put heavy emphasis on both, right? Like high refresh rate with the kind of a low touch sample rate. Sure, like certain elements will seem smoother, but some of the interactions will kind of feel a little bit off. So,
but you're right. If it's not reacting fast enough to your fingers, it's going to feel like it's slow to you. So that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, and I don't know. I hope that Apple delivers on that this year. To be honest with you.
I wanted to double back about the battery thing with 5G on both of these phones. I have had zero issues with battery, and I keep everything on all the time, and my display is like 90% all the time. I've had zero battery issues.
Yeah, I think the battery issue for the iPhone stems from the switching between LTE and 5G. Now, I run beta, so I can't comment on battery life too much because people just like, oh, you're on a beta. I mean, sure, yeah, we can chalk it up to that. But what I would say is for the iPhone, at least 12 series, there was bugs. Apple does its best to shut off the 5G antennas when it doesn't detect a signal, but it also has to keep itself aware that there could be a 5G. So there's this check and bounce constantly going back and forth. Which one's better, right? Do I want 3 bars of LTE or do I want one bar 5G? There's a lot at play there on the back end. So I know initially there was some bugs on the iPhone 12 series trying to bounce that out. But I'm genuinely curious. This comment that the Verizon tweet or whatever, like I'm like, how bad was the battery draining? What were they doing?
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering the same thing. Now Brian does make the point that I carry 3 phones to work with me, and they're all different. So
this is true.
I'm not average.
Yeah, but no, I mean, listen, I think you've probably had days where you've used one more than the other, and if it's lasting, it's lasting. I have very whelming expectations for battery life because I look at what these are capable of, and I'm like, I can't sit here and say I need this thing to last 3 days. I mean, you got to know. Exactly. I mean, this shoots 4K at 60 HDR. Samsung can shoot 8K footage. I'm like, okay, who's expecting this thing to last a day, like over a day? Like, I don't know. I've never had a phone that's a 2-day battery life phone. I use mine too much. I don't know. I don't know about you guys. 2-day battery life.
What I try to do is when I'm at work, and I only work 3 days a week, I carry all 3 phones. But most of the time, I carry one Android phone, which right now is the S21 Ultra, and I carry the iPhone. I love having an iPhone with me at all times, but I still tend to lean towards Android. So I use the S21 maybe a third more than I use the iPhone at all times. But I try to take pictures the same.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting anecdote with that. I've tried to bounce like having multiple phones, and it's kind of can be fun, but also can be like kind of overwhelming to me sometimes because I'm like, oh, everything's buzzing. But I probably didn't set it up the best way. But I know a few people that are similar. Like they'll dabble in the Android world, but they always have like I say trusty, but they always have like that iPhone that's like, I don't know if it's a family thing. For me, it's like working family. A lot of them are iOS users, and so like FaceTime and AirDrop and stuff. It is very nice to have.
That's what I like.
Yeah, I think that's it for most people. For me, I just like having both with me at all times.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I just need them. I just have the iPhone around because it's more reliable in terms of its video, especially if I'm airdropping it to my iPad to edit. And then there's just better creativity apps on an iPhone and Clubhouse now, of course.
Yeah. This is one interesting thing. Even Samsung has a lot of accessories, but it's crazy to me how prioritized iOS and the Apple world is when it comes to accessories, app exclusive, and features.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it does come down to developers. It's easier to design an app and develop content or whatever for,
and they're going to make more money with iOS normally.
This is true. I mean, I know some people don't like hearing that, but it's just true. People are willing to spend more. And it doesn't mean that, inherently Android's cheaper, but listen, they get creative. Android users are a little more savvy, I think, sometimes. Yeah. So they'll get creative how they get.
I'll tell you how deep it goes. I get up every morning. The first thing I do is I read 4 Bible scriptures from 4 different Bibles. Well, one of those Bibles you can only get on the iPhone because they don't even make it for Android.
Interesting. Yeah. You're not talking about like the actual app, not like KJV, NIV, anything like that.
I'm talking about specific apps. When I get up in the morning, I use one Bible, then the Bible Gateway, and then Daily Bible. Those are all 3. I don't know if you could see it. All 3 of those are on my Android phone. But the one scripture I post every day from this one Bible, and that's that one that's, where is it? The one in the middle that just says Bible.
Yeah.
You can only get that on an iPhone. And that's what I post my scripture. There are people who follow me who like the scripture, me posting a scripture every day.
Yeah.
But you won't find that on the Android phones at all. So it's amazing how different.
That Nigel has a phone with the biggest screen real estate it can have, and he just bought a tablet.
I'm curious, Brian. This Tab 7 Plus, how has that been? I haven't seen a ton of coverage on that. Like again, I've seen like the first look.
Nigel has the Galaxy Z Fold 2. He's getting the Huawei Mate X2 as well, the folding phone. And
he got the Huawei and the S7 this week.
No, I'm just thinking, like, usually people, when they say, the bigger their phone screen, the less likely they picking up their tablet.
Yeah, I can, I'm actually, I put my name here instead of my my pseudonym, I guess. I told you I didn't, Ted. I told you I don't know how live stream works, man.
When Ted's broadcasting, I use Mobile Geezer. When I'm broadcasting, I put George Hayes because up in the corner it says Mobile Geezer. So.
Yeah, see, I'm such a rookie here. So I just saw someone. I don't know how this would work, but I don't know what the process is here. I guess I can chat it. Well, I'll wait because if I even breathe too hard on my phone, it looks like I'm in a seismic test because it's on this weird gooseneck. So I got to be careful. Yeah. But someone commented about my Twitter or something. I'll see how
I was going to use this. I didn't.
No, I already told him. Don't worry, Dave.
Okay, cool.
I already told him.
But yeah, it's interesting. That's why I also like, again, George, like having multiple devices, especially when you're looking at these things, helps, right? It gives context to your outlook, instead of having these.
And I have, what I do the most is I compare this phone's camera with that phone's camera. Mm-hmm. Well, when I'm doing that, I have 3 phone lines, so I use this phone, to get calls on, or vice versa. But if the 2 phones that I'm comparing, well, those are both on silent, and I can't get any phone calls, so I always carry the other phone with me.
So here's the goal in question, George. Carrier wise, do you have all three active on their own line, or do you have
they're all. It's 3 separate lines on T-Mobile.
Yep.
Okay.
3 separate bills. Yeah.
So how do you feel about? I saw
3 separate phone bills.
Yeah, there you go. I'd be a nightmare at 3. Oh my goodness. My bill's already high enough. I saw a post on Reddit, and someone had actually sued Samsung in the U.S. for not delivering on the eSIM and won, and they got settlement outside of court or something crazy.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense to me that they should have won. You know.
And I'm blown away because I'm like, I thought that the S21 series had it natively, but it gets into a deeper conversation as someone that uses iOS. eSIM is still a nightmare. It is still a nightmare. If you try to, this is
it is too. I tried it once.
Yep.
I hated it.
And this is what
anyway, I don't eSIM at all.
Yeah, I'm ready to be done. So carriers, like the idea, right? This is going to be a little bit of a rant, so hopefully I don't want to get myself in trouble here. The idea behind eSIM was, depending on the country, wherever you were, you could access a data plan and sign up wherever you were with any carrier, right? For the most part, given that the device is unlocked and able to do that. eSIM was supposed to mitigate 1, waste, right? No more plastic SIM cards. And 2, ease of switching, right? Both consumer and environmentally friendly. So if you argue against this, I don't know what position you would take, but let me know. They've actually made it intentionally harder for unknown reasons. I would imagine, one, to make it harder to switch, sure, but I don't know what the other reasons are. So for instance, right, prepaid. Oh, well, we can't do, we can only do postpaid eSIMs for some carriers. Or, oh, you got to go into the store and get a QR code, depending on the carrier.
That's
right.
And
it's like, that literally is the exact opposite. Like, at that point, just get a SIM card.
Yeah, that's the opposite of what they said they're trying to do.
And we're 2 years in, right? It's still a nightmare. Go to AT&T and say activate eSIM. You're gonna get a WikiHow that's 50 pages long, right? And it's gonna be like, oh, if you're under this plan, you need to go to this store and you need to dance 3 times and ask for the guy at the Texaco station, and he may give you what in the world? And then T-Mobile, it's like, well, it's only this is weird. Only prepaid can do it at first, right? Well, why? This is my tinfoil hat, right? Well, prepaid, a lot of the people that join T-Mobile's prepaid, like, gig, 10 gig plan, they travel overseas a lot or whatever.
Right.
They're not going to stick to them. So they want that money, right? They want those people, they want that money now. But they don't want you switching from your plan to someone else if you're on postpaid.
Exactly.
And I'm like, this is some of the tech conversations that I'm like, yo, why are we not talking about this? Like, eSIM, promise not delivered. Apple delivered it. I mean, good night. Apple says you can have literally almost an unlimited amount of eSIM profiles, and you can activate them when needed, right? I should be able to, and I'll end it for me, and I'm curious what you guys think. I should be able to go on my phone that's unlocked from Apple, and I should be able to activate an AT&T plan, a T-Mobile plan, a Verizon plan, a Met, whatever plan I want, right? That's the idea behind eSIM. It's agnostic, and you can switch, and it's reusable. We're 2 years in, and it's still it's easier to make your own SIM card. It's crazy.
So technically, with
I tried it one time, and it was too much of a hassle, and I said, no, I'll do without the eSIM for now.
So with the eSIM, you can have like one device and then have 4 concurrent plans.
So and
just switch as you saw fit.
Yeah, so the idea for most use cases, I would imagine, is you have a personal line and a work line, and on the weekends you turn the work line off. It doesn't even ring. Turn it off, and then you go back to work. You turn it on. Or certain people have certain access to those numbers individually. You have more granular control over who can access you when. Is the idea behind it, without having to carry 2 phones. Most people, I would say, the average person doesn't want to carry more than they need to, except for us. We carry 30 different things.
That's true.
And they've actually made it more difficult with eSIM intentionally. Which, listen, I don't want to get into regulation and this and that, but I'm like, dude, like there has to be. You would think it'd be the tech community, since we're the the bastions of what needs to happen. But I'm blown away. Like, I still, to this day, If you want to Verizon, if you want to do Verizon prepaid and you want to use the eSIM, it's perfectly able to do it. They won't allow it.
Yeah. Well, they're cutting their own throats. I mean, they're cutting their own money. So sure, they're going to do everything they can to throw.
They don't want you to
money.
switch. That's really what it comes down to, because you get ticked off. Let's say you're month to month and T-Mobile is just really not cutting it for you. Verizon, and you're like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to AT&T. You can literally do it. They've showed it in the keynote. What's your account information? Like 4 other things. Boom, you're through. You switched. Right. They don't want that. They don't want that easy access. They want it to be an uphill battle. They want you to have to go to the store. No one wants to go to the store. And now more than ever in COVID environment, like you'd think you'd be eliminating foot traffic, unnecessary foot traffic.
Well, people are afraid to go to the store now.
Yeah.
The only one who's not afraid to go to the store is me, because I don't give a crap about COVID.
Uh-oh.
I have zero fear of COVID. I keep telling these guys, you give me a woman who's got COVID, I'll kiss her. I'll guarantee you I'm not going to get it.
In fact,
my immune system is that strong.
Probably think he'll cure her COVID. His immune system is that strong.
Well, if she tastes good enough, I'm going to try.
There you go. But I mean, it's true. It's they've made it harder than it has to be, and they're. Do you know what folding phones? Let's hear it. Oh, he has the 2 phones, right?
Yeah, the Z Fold.
All right, Nigel, let us.
No, yeah, he has the Z Fold 2 and the Huawei X2. I don't know what they're calling it now.
Man, those things are pricey. I keep seeing them.
Z Fold 2 and Z Flip. Oh no, does that mean he has 3? Oh no, he hasn't bought the Huawei one yet. So
those things, man. I did a little video on
the
that.
Z Flip is the one.
I don't know, man. Do you think that's the future for everyone? Folding phones?
No.
So
I see people.
Flip is the one I'd like to have.
When I show them mine, like technically a folding phone, but there are people
Jay
who think that they'll break it.
How are you going to break it?
It's the average consumer. They have a preconception on stuff on their lives, and that's how they'll make a decision. Like they're said, like I'll probably break it, and they're probably right.
This thing is tough as they. This thing is as tough as they come. I mean, come on.
So here
doesn't matter. They'll think he'll break it.
So my thought on folding phones is, and I think the tech is awesome. I think that there needs to be a push into looking into these things and what does that whole thing look like, right? My concern, I don't know if it's a stopgap to this AR world that everyone keeps alluding to, whether it's Apple or Samsung, or if it is the future. And there's a couple reasons. Again, what I said earlier, people are spending less money on phones, right? They're not buying these $1,000, $2,000 phones. They're buying $600, $700, $800. Even Samsung, their number 1 selling phone, I think at the end of last year, was their Alpha series, which is killer, but it's their Alpha series. It's not their Note series. Yeah, right. And so, especially because that 300 to 400, they're compelling, right? It's not like they're crappy Happy Meal phones. It's like, oh wow, this is like a 2K AMOLED display.
Pixel 4a,
right, 100%. And so I look at the folding phones. I'm like, okay, well, who is this going to appeal to? Obviously us, right? So exclude us. Let's go back into the real world. Okay, it's very expensive. It's very fragile, and not for nothing. I love Samsung, but that rocky start, even if it was on the reviewers for not paying attention to the disclosures or whatever, it doesn't help. It doesn't help instill confidence.
I don't put that on the reviewers. That was all on Samsung, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what happened because I saw several posts. Some people said Samsung didn't tell them that it was a screen protector. I'm like, listen, for this phone, I'm wearing felt gloves for a new product like that. And I know people are rough. Reviewers, especially ones that get devices every week, they're not buying cases and screen. They're just using it and then getting a new one sent to them when that breaks. So it's a little bit of a false pretense to a certain extent. But again, I'm looking at the after effects. Even if it is the Samsung's fault or the reviewers, consumers, all they heard was the folding phone broke. They're not going to look into it. That's all they're going to hear. They see that timeline go across their feed. And so I'm like, okay, they're expensive. People have a little bit of FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, doubt. And, they can break easier than what we currently have. So I'm like, and I'm curious, is that something that is going to change soon? And I know price will come down, but I'm like, is it going to come down enough? Is it going to overcome everything I just spoke, right? Is it going to spoke up?
No, I don't think I think with the folding phones, it's not about overtaking or being a stopgap like what the notch is on displays and trying to give you an all display phone.
Yeah.
I just think they're just a new form factor on the market that if people are interested, they can buy.
But Jay Will's point was he believes it's the future, but he thinks it's going to take 5 to 10 years. You know, he figures the slab phones are going to be around probably forever, but in 5 to 10 years, most people will be using folding phones. I think he's probably right, is my guess.
I think so. I think if this is the biggest X factor to me is going to be the software driving it, right? Because look at like iPhone, still probably the #1 or second most popular phone, right? iOS. It's still pretty simple. I'm like, for me, I have to envision, okay, the average person walks in, like listen, I've seen reviews of this folding phone. I'm like, dude, you can run like 60 apps at once. You can do all kinds of craziness, copy and paste and drag and drop. And I'm like, this is wild in your hand. But I'm like, how are you going to overcome that with someone that isn't into this? That's just like, hey, I'm used to this regular phone. I'm ready for this.
I think Jay Will was wrong with that. It's possible that, what was I going to say? It could take over 5 years if Apple releases a folding phone.
Software-wise, in my opinion, this is by far the best folding phone.
Oh man, this guy's just dropping devices. He's got the what is it? The Duo.
The Duo, yeah, I love this thing. And what happens with Duo, even if it's picture-wise, it needs a lot of work, but with everything else, the software is like butter. I mean, they've got
So, what interests me,
he beat like crazy.
Phone is so good, makes George step over his words.
Hey, listen, that's a good phone in my estimation. If I trip up,
well, technically,
as far as screens.
As far as George doesn't really think it's phone.
Everybody gets addicted to this thing because one of the guys, Will H, he had one, he sold it. He just bought another one last week because you get addicted to this thing. There's something to screen phones.
So, and this is why I would be more inclined to pick up a 2-screen phone. And this is going to sound weird, but I actually was thinking about this the other day.
Too.
I was like, to me, it's like having one monitor at work or having 2, right? Or an extra monitor.
Yeah.
It's they're their own thing, but they're together.
That's exactly
versus a folding phone.
What it's like.
And that's what I think. I think that's why Juan was like so adamant. Like you guys, your reviewers are not looking. You're looking for the cool like tech vibe, not the function of the tech. Very different approaches.
Exactly. And that's why I think something like the Duo and the and the Velvet, I think in the long run they're going to win over the Fold. That's my guess.
Like and if I'm going to pick on let's say my mom, right? If I were to show her a Fold, she would be like, "Oh, this is overwhelming," right? And rightfully so, it is. She's not even the average consumer. She's like, "Hey, like." She does like the whole like lean back and like stab at the phone screen. So, but if
Mom,
say, hey,
you could make the letters bigger, Mom. Like, how do you do that?
they lean the phone screen into the light, and you're like, that's not how that works. But exactly. What if I said, hey, Mom, you can take Facebook and put it on this screen, and you take Instagram and put it on this screen.
It's a lot easier with 2 screens.
And it's the same, right? I get people say, well, you can do split screen. I'm like, no. I'm talking about you have the same phone just on 2 separate screens. Everything's the same. Your aperture, your layout. I'm like, that makes more sense to me than having this, multiple different things you can do on this one screen. But listen, I'm speaking at a distance. I've played with them, but I haven't used them enough to sit here and give you the normal YouTube review, which is, it's been embargoed for a day. Yeah. I'm good to go. I would have to live with that sucker to really know the ins and outs. So but that's just my opinion. I was curious what you guys thought as far as
Duo is absolutely
and it's insane. The Best Buy has crazy sales on the Duo right now. Like even without activation, they're taking like $400 off, I think, or $200, something like that.
Interesting. I mean, it's a
I'm waiting.
Phone. Or whatever.
I'm waiting for the new one to come out now. That's going to be the expensive phone I buy this year. Like, with the Duo, the worst thing to use it as is a phone. Because when you put it up to your ear, it feels funny. It doesn't feel natural at all. So I never use that thing as a phone. I use it for everything else. I use it for watching videos. I use it for reading articles. I've got YouTube over here. I've got an article over here. But I almost never use it to make a phone call. It'll make phone calls, but it just feels very unnatural.
And it's so sad that phone got such a. And you know what's interesting? I wanted to write up about it because there was the reviewers. I don't know if the tech community, the top tier, the top 1% reviewers, they felt like a certain type of way about Microsoft's process for releasing it, because I think it was just a hardware look-see. They couldn't look at the software or anything else. They could just look at the hardware or something like that. And Elon kind of called it out on the reviewers that were kind of complaining about it. And even Michael Fisher or Mr. Mobile or whatever kind of like slightly came at Juan a little bit, like, oh, like, that's not how it should be. But I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, you really have to go to
Juan. It was
I thought
it was this other guy who had retweeted like Juan's
yes,
byline. I think that's the word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
like basically the guy that had retweeted byline was like basically accusing reviewers of just playing cheap to Microsoft's embargo by like just playing along through this embargo period. You could only have said a nice thing, which was predictable, which Microsoft wanted. And obviously, and I guess the guy was just trying to say maybe review could have been had more forethought on that.
Yeah.
Just shutting up until you can talk about it fully. Just playing on to Microsoft's word, like saying, hey, I can't tell you much about the software, but I can tell you about the hardware now. Like, just don't say anything. Just dedicate all your time to using the product.
Well, the first weeks you could open the phone, but you couldn't turn it on. I mean, everybody had the same. That was the weirdest embargo ever.
Yeah, like it totally fails as a first impressions video.
Yeah, but this goes back to my comment earlier about this access coverage is bad across the boards, because even if you're a reviewer and you don't have, you're not slighted or influenced by the early access from an optics. Oh, well, shout out to Nigel. I appreciate it, man. It means a lot to me. I know a lot of people say that as perfunctory. Oh, thank you, but it does. It motivates me further. But let me finish the point here with reviewers. Even from an optics standpoint, like, it still looks bad because you're getting early access.
No, I agree. I agree. And what those big time reviewers should have done was refuse to go along with that embargo. That's what I think.
Like, hey, I can't treat my audience and the people that trust me for technology advice. I got to look at it all. I can't just look at the hardware, because the hardware and software to me the software is more important, to be honest with you. But the hardware is equally as important, especially a unique new design like this, right? And so it shows a lack of confidence in your own product, really, when you say, look at just this and nothing else. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the whole early access nonsense. I want to find reviewers that are buying these devices with their own money and they're using them throughout the year. I don't want to see, I don't know how you guys feel.
What do you want? What do you not want to see? Finish that thought.
Oh, well, I like to see reviewers that are buying this up with their own money.
You got me.
I don't like to see this Samsung. Here, shout out to Ren, if that's how you said it. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah, Ren.
I don't like to see this. Samsung gives me a phone early, so I know I got to say nice things, and I'm never going to look at this device again anyway. So it doesn't hurt me to just say, hey, do your thing. This is what I did for. Here's some crispy B-roll in Times Square, and it's like, sure, that looks great, but like, it doesn't do people that are looking for content or substantive content. It doesn't do them any good, So it does two things, right? It feeds people's bias. If you're a Samsung fan, you're gonna be like, oh wow, this is great. He said nice things. And if you're not, then you go find someone else. I think taking away this early access, early look-sees type of stuff would add more credence to what people were saying. But it's this exclusive, and that's what gets into. Yeah, that's what gets into the influencer thing, right? You're a brand ambassador just vicariously through your YouTube channel. And you get paid by views because you get early stuff.
Actually, George, I think what I was wondering is, can you do a split screen on the two screens of your Duo?
Interesting. I would
You mean, can I, no matter what screen I got, I can split this? Yeah, I can move any screen to any side if that's what you mean.
No. I think ultimately you would have 4 apps on your screen of your Duo.
Oh,
Two
no,
apps.
no, you can't do that.
Really?
Maybe this year's, I don't know.
But see, here's my question for you two.
You can run 3, but I don't think you can run 4. Yeah.
So I see you both have folding phones. Okay. How often do you, I feel like we're getting to a point where it's like, okay, yes, you can run a lot of these apps, right, at the same time. But practically, do you guys find that using like 2 or 3 at the same time on that screen, like, is it doable? Because I've used this, I mean, I have an S21 Ultra. Like, I've done the split screen for like YouTube and scrolling.
Split screen
But,
or
like,
one
that's it.
screen has always been a pain, and I never really liked it. But yeah, when you have 2 screens, like you can even like make a shortcut where it's like, you click on an app and it'll open two apps. It'll open those 2 apps at the same time on the screen. So yeah, I'm always all the time.
But I can tell you, David, doing this with the Velvet, if I have it over here, I've got to swipe over to do this. For me, that's unnatural. With this, so on the Velvet, I almost never. Well, every once in a while, if I'm watching something long, like I'm going to watch a preacher preach a sermon, then I'll split it because I'll put the Bible on one side and watch him on the other. But on the Duo, I do it every time I turn on the Duo. I've got 2 things running at once.
It's interesting. Yeah, I'm getting more curious because I have an iPad Pro, so I have like the split screen or whatever. But I'm like now that the screens are becoming bigger on phones and you're more mobile, I'm like, it's nice, but I'm also like the size of it. I'm like, I don't know. Like, is it? I mean, you can't see me. I mean, I like to think I'm not a little hipster, but I wear tighter, jeans, and I'm like, does it fit well in the pockets?
Yeah, and that was the issue. I would just take out. I can remove the case from the
You
phone.
said the iPad Pro. I never use my split screen on my iPad.
I will tell you this. I don't do a whole lot. If anything, it's a YouTube video. So it's a 12.9, right? I'll have a YouTube video up, and maybe Reddit and scroll through, but I don't like this. This kind of gets into my iPad, a review that I did or look-sees, because I'm like, yes, like some of the software is cool, but I'm like, this is a lot of money to like have screens floating around, and that's really it. And I know they show like videos being all productive on it, but I'm like, I would bet with a great degree of assurance that most people buying iPad Pros, it's a luxury device. They're not doing these pro things. I don't know anyone that's like, oh, let me get rid of my iMac station or my PC build or my gaming rig and I'm going to go get an iPad because what's a computer? I don't believe that a second. And so when I see some of these reviews about iPad Pros and they're like, oh, you could do all these things, I'm like, yeah, but like no one's doing that. Let's be honest, maybe the reviewers. But back to the split screen, that's really it. Videos on one side.
I'm your case in point. I bought the iPad Pro just because I wanted to have an iPad Pro. Yeah. That was the only reason I bought it. Yeah.
It's not, and it is nice. I'm not. Listen, if you have one, I am not saying they're not worth it or they're not cool, but it's definitely more of a luxury device for most people than it is like this necessary like work productivity device that you have to have. You don't know how you lived without it. That's a bit hyperbolic when I hear reviews about that because I'm like, listen, the notes are cool. It's nice. It's smooth. The speakers are loud. It's a great device for consuming content and light like work, right? But this idea that like I think it's cool, but some people like my little station here. Some people have an iPad there and that's it. And I'm like, I could never work just off of that. I would in my mind a 12-inch screen. Like, no way, dude.
What kills me with this iPad though is the remote, the additional what's it called when you try to attach another monitor to it? It's non-existent.
Me neither.
It just mirrors the display when you connect an HDMI to it.
I didn't hear. It doesn't even do. It does like a 4:3 aspect. It does a weird. It doesn't even fill the whole screen. It's just like square chunk.
It's the most violent thing that Apple is currently doing on.
That's a violation right there.
I don't know why. It just
I don't know though because I think so. I have one of the M1 Max. I think that it has to do with something with their processors or something. Listen, I'm the furthest thing from like a computer whiz, but if you look at the M1,
yeah, no, I swear, it's Apple is doing it. I don't think it's a hardware or software issue, like
it's
just
weird.
mirroring a display, casting another display, or getting an additional display to support. I think Apple is just they're just violent.
Obstinate. But the reason I'm like somewhat conspiratorial, I guess. So the M1 Max, right? They can only extend to one display, one external monitor. That's it. And when you look at like Intel, you can have like up to 4 or 5 at like 4K. So it's like, okay. You look at the iPad, and it can only mirror at a weird ratio. And then even the iPhone, if you get like an AV adapter, it does the same thing. Like, there's something
Maybe
with
it's
them.
an thing though.
It's something with this
Because,
external display that they don't like it.
Because
They don't
phones
play
have the
well.
same issue too, don't they? Though?
Yeah. They just do that little square rectangle, right? They don't fill the screen, which
And unless you go to widescreen, then it'll fill up the whole screen.
yeah, but the iPads I've noticed and the M1 Max that when you plug it into an external monitor, the Max you can do one, right? Full, whatever. But the iPads are like this, it's just like a weird limitation I've seen. HDMI, it's ubiquitous and everyone has it and it's powerful.
Right.
Like why do they have such a hard time figuring that out on the iPad?
But here's the thing, they're able to do it though when you're playing a video.
So
then it'll if you're playing a video on an iPad, you connect the monitor to it, the video will take up the whole screen.
So
but
that,
as soon
I don't
as
know
you
if
edit that video, it goes into that weird aspect ratio.
I don't know if that's like an HDCP thing or if that's like it can detect when content is being like sent across and it goes, oh, okay, like this is a video we need to expand. I don't know. I'm promise you, I don't know. I just think it's a really weird like bug. I don't know what to call it. Like you're selling a $2,000 machine that can only extend to one display. That's just insane.
From a programmer's point of view, it sounds like the programming is probably easy for one and not easy for all the rest. I'm just looking at things as a programmer.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It probably
there are some things when you're programming that are really easy to do, and then there's all of the stuff that's not so easy to do.
Well, and to your point,
this sounds like one of those issues, one of those times.
And to kind of piggyback off that, I think that's why I felt some type of way because I saw a lot of reviews say, oh, this entry-level MacBook Pro, or this is just like the cheaper versions. I'm like, okay, like these aren't cheap by any estimation, but I kind of get what they're saying. But now I think why Apple made sure that this is like, hey, this is like our entry level. Because I don't know any pros out there, which I think is an overused term for a lot of tech, but a lot of pro users, like they're not jumping to this.
Right.
There's forums on Reddit. People are sticking to 16. Like I need another thing. I need 4 ports.
We need ports. We need all the ports.
I'm going nuts with these 2 Type-C ports. Like I don't know why I didn't think that through, but I'm like, okay, one is charging for the most part. I'm like, okay, one more. Let's see. I can either do like a cable charge something, or I can the fact that I have to choose, and then
you have to choose. Yes.
What blows my mind is like they didn't put one on either side, right, for charging. Like okay, my cable's here, it's over here. Cable screen.
Put one on the other side.
And I'm like, I'm gonna Johnny Ive, but I really think they need to have just someone come in there and just go, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. Oh wow, even the mouse.
It sounds like bottom.
I'm like, I've read articles where Johnny Ive have people come in and unbox stuff just to get a feel of that emotional. Good. I'm like, just have someone come in there and plug it in, and they'll tell you this is probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
How did Logitech $10 mouse outsmart Johnny Ive in a lab in Cupertino? The world may never know.
No, but nobody's
interesting design choices sometimes.
Nobody's
no reason to cry over it, George.
Losing them. We said Johnny Ive. Now he's Johnny Ive's. He's killing the signal.
Okay. All right, Ted. It's 1 minute to 10 now. Just letting you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hop off soon. I got carried. I told you guys I'm loquacious. I could talk forever. So don't let me go on.
All right, this is probably a good place to end it. Apple's poor design decisions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
dude,
Dave. I'm from Jersey. I can talk.
Jersey boys.
But
Well, you know what's funny? When we moved here and when we moved to Orlando too, my ex-wife and I were raised in the same county, and it's only a half a mile
Oh,
from
wow,
Manhattan, but it's in Jersey, across the river. But people thought she had a Jersey accent, and people thought I had a New York accent. And we're raised in the same county.
Yeah,
That's weird.
when I go away, real quick, I get I've actually broken the habit, but my mom was raised in South Philly, and so there was like bad basketball bathroom, like you had this kind of twang, if you want to call it that. I broke it.
Yeah,
because,
they make fun of us saying coffee. My ex-son-in-law, he's always said coffee.
Yeah. Or the biggest one, you ready for this? Is I'll end my spiel with this: water instead of water. Water.
What the heck?
Water. Oh, you come here. It's water. Can I get some water? W-U-D-E-R.
Up in North Jersey, no, you don't get that.
You get water, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, it took me like a year of breaking that habit. But hey, listen, guys, it's definitely nice. I know for people that are watching it later, this is the first time we've interacted, so I think it went really well.
Yeah, this is David, also AKA All That Text first live stream. So let's give him a round of applause if you're watching this after the fact.
Yeah.
And what are we doing for next week? Are you hosting next week?
He's giving me that look.
He's like, I'm hosting?
He's like, I told you not to bring that up.
A lot better. Now I'm hosting. David, are you coming on again?
Hey, listen, I'm always down in the chat. You guys let me know. This is your thing here. You let me know. I'll be there.
Oh, I'll definitely send you a link. So count on the fact that I'll be sending it to you, but I'll be sending it earlier than Ted sent it.
That's on me. I had a Comcast shout out to you. Not really. Apparently, they just maybe they saw what we're doing and just started to chew on the line between our houses because I've had issues all day. I have shielded everything here too, so
and I'm not saying I'm going to send you the link early. I'm going to send you the stories 2 days earlier. I guarantee you that.
I got you. I got what you're saying. I got you. Appreciate it. But
and it's easier for me because I don't work Tuesday and Wednesday.
I didn't know that, George.
Hey, shout out to Brian there. I will be here, man. We'll chat it up, and I won't be late or delay at all. And hopefully, Comcast can allot us some bandwidth so there's no delay. But I definitely appreciate the people that did, go follow me on the
Look at this Teddy,
and let's chat it up.
David's got groupies already. Look
Groupies. I appreciate them all, man. I really do because it's especially starting out, you don't know. I'm not gonna upload and never see anything. So for people to go out of their way and given how easy it is to stick to the same creators that you found or whatever, the fact that you guys you know who I am to a certain extent is definitely appreciate that. So
this is why I answer every single comment. This is why I answer every single comment on my videos because I am so appreciative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, absolutely. All right, guys.
If you guys don't mind, Coming to America 2 is waiting for me. I just wanted to do a nice little outro. Let me just figure out the distance on this real quick. Okay, I'm going to leave on this one. All right, you're gonna see my face go away, but don't worry, I'm still here. I just need to just.
Okay, his face went away. What is he doing?
Maybe he just trolled us, and this is the outro. We just have to figure out that there is none.
We are the outro.
Can you imagine that? It's a fake outro. We gotta just figure out that it's fake.
At least the outro has a young side and an old side. That's good.
Hey, listen, we all have valid point of views, man. Oh, here we go.
Oh
man,
that's it. That's it.
You just lost yours. She's bouncing now. There it is.
Okay.
Hey, there's no audio,
It's cool.
So it's not as evil. Yeah.
Okay.
That's Comcast right now, just so you guys know. It's them looking at us.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get that Starlink Comcast. Get ready for it. But anyway, guys, I'll see you guys next week. And we'll work through those details, George. But it was nice meeting you virtually.
Right, thanks,
and
you too.
Yeah, the rest of your week, man.
Ted, you enjoyed that, didn't you?